Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Very good morning. Ladies and gentlemen, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin, wassalatu wassalamu ala syafil anbiya wa mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. For the blessing that have allowed us to come together again in the second Youth Art Exhibit and Dialogue 2023. In addition, this program is organized by the Department of Art Trivium, UiTM Branch, Malaysia, with the Department of Ceramic and the Collage of Creative Art, University of Technology Mara, Perak Branch, Malaysia, in collaboration with the National Art Gallery in conjunction with the Maha Bakat Siswa 2023. Congratulations are extended to Dr. Muhammad Khairi Bahrom and as the chairman of the program, Dr. Siti Erni Shahira Abdul Jamil as the program director and all the crews involved in making this program. Ladies and gentlemen, I also take these opportunities to extend a warm welcome to the audience, especially the members of UiTM Perak Malaysia, the members of Indonesian Institute of Art and Culture Bandung, Indonesia, the members of St. Louis Community College at Forest Park, United States, and all the respected audience. I would like to remind all of you that we broadcast continuously through the UiTM Perak channel on YouTube. Ladies and gentlemen, today we are accompanied by two highly experienced panelists. With great pride, I warmly welcome Mr. AGUS CAHYANA, Lecturer, Institut Seni Budaya Indonesia, Bandung, Indonesia, and Ms. NOSRI, Assistant Professor, General Fine Art Program Coordinator, St. Louis Community College at Forest Park, United States, to this program. Once again, welcome to International Art Dialogue 2023. Inshallah, as your moderator for this session, I would like to remind all of you, if you have any question, if you have any kind of the experience to share, please type them in the chat box. Inshallah, we'll address them during the Q&A session toward the end. Before we start our program, we are honored to have Al-Fadil Ustaz Nawawi bin Abdul Rahman with us today. Let us invite Ustaz Al-Fadil Nawawi bin Abdul Rahman to lead us in a meaningful and enlightening prayers.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Allahumma inna nas'aluka ilman nafi'a wa rizqan tayyiba wa amalan mutaqabbala. Allahumma faqihna fid din wa 'allimna at-ta'win. Allahumma hdina as-siratal mustaqim, as-siratal ladzina an'amta 'alaihim minan nabiyyin was-siddiqin wasyuhada'i was-salihin wa hasuna ulaika rafiqa. Ya Allah ya Karim, sesungguhnya kami berhimpun pada hari ini bagi menyatakan kesyukuran di atas kurniaan-Mu yang tidak ternilai. Jadikanlah kami hamba-hamba-Mu yang senantiasa bersyukur sama ada nikmat yang sedikit, lebih-lebih lagi nikmat yang melimpah ruah kepada kami. Kurniakanlah ilmu yang bermanfaat buat kami dari ilmu-Mu yang sangat luas bagi mengembangkan potensi kami sebagai hamba-Mu yang Engkau redai. Ya Hayyun Ya Qayyum, sesungguhnya Engkau maha mengetahui bahawa kami di sini untuk menimba ilmu-Mu yang sangat luas dan berkongsi maklumat, khususnya di dalam program International Art Dialogue. Justru berkati pertemuan kami, berkatilah jua usaha-usaha kami, ilhamkanlah dalam fikiran dan minda kami idea-idea yang bernas dan pandangan-pandangan yang jelas. Kurniakanlah kepada kami limpahan ilmu yang berguna dan kefahaman yang benar. Satukanlah hati-hati kami, eratkanlah silaturahim di kalangan kami, padukanlah tenaga dan usaha kami untuk memertabatkan kualiti dan integriti kerja serta pendidikan bangsa secara bersama demi mencapai kecemerlangan dan kegemilangan. Ya Allah, Ya Rahman, Ya Rahim, sinarilah hati-hati kami dengan cahaya dan hidayah-Mu. Semoga dengannya kami mudah menerima, menghayati dan melaksanakan serta mengamalkannya. kami mohon berkati dan rahmatilah perhimpunan kami ini. Ya Dzal Jalali wal Ikram, kurniakanlah jua kepada kami kesihatan anggota, kecergasan minda, ketenangan jiwa, kekuatan semangat. Semoga dengannya kami mampu mendepani cabaran, berdaya saing dan mampu mengangkat martabat diri, keluarga, masyarakat dan negara. Allahumma ja'al jam'ana hadha jam'an marhuma wa tafarruqana min ba'dihi tafarruqan ma'suma wa la taj'al Allahumma fina wa la ma'na wa la yatba'una syaqiyya wa la matruda wa la mahruma. Rabbana hab lana min azwajina wa zurriyyatina qurrata a'yun waj'alna lil muttaqina imama. Rabbana atina fid dunya hasanah wa fil akhirati hasanah wa qina adzaban nar. Wa sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Walhamdulillah rabbil alamin.
Amin, amin, ya Rabbal Alamin. Thank you, Al-Fadil Ustaz Nawawi bin Abdul Rahman. Ladies and gentlemen, the society in the past enriched their life by learning through their environment. So when speaking about the environment, it's referred to metaphysics aspect, the life that exists around us. Taking the scenario that occurred in Sayung, Kuala Kangsar, Perak, Malaysia, where the community at the time aims to preserve the coolness of water. Thus, through the wisdom of the local community, the creations of Malay pottery with replicating the form of pumpkin, referring to the ceramic industry in Kuala Kangsar, came into being. To explore further, today we are accompanied by our first panelist, Mr. AGUS CAHYANA, lecturer of Institut Seni Budaya Indonesia, Bandung, Indonesia, will be presenting on local cultural wisdom as a basis for artistic character development in the Art Learning Incubator. Please welcome Mr. AGUS.
Coba share ini ya, slide. Oke, pertama-tama saya ucapkan terima kasih semuanya. Alhamdulillah bisa hadir hari ini. Terima kasih dari pihak UiTM sudah mengundang kami dari ISPI Bandung. Nah, saya akan presentasikan tentang slide-nya bisa dibuka, Pak RADZUAN. Nah, okay. Ini tentang local culture wisdom as a basis for artistic character development in the art learning incubator. Jadi saya ingin sharing sebetulnya mengenai local culture wisdom atau filsafat lokal ya. Ini. Jadi saya cerita dulu tentang Art Learning Incubator, itu Artlinks, satu komunitas seni yang kemudian kita kembangkan di ISPI Bandung untuk mewadahi mahasiswa yang kemudian ingin lebih mengeksplorasi kemampuan artistiknya, kemudian digabung dengan potensi-potensi kelokalan yang ada di Bandung. Bandung itu identik dengan Sunda ya. Jadi Art Learning Incubator atau Artlinks ini dibentuk tahun 2015. Jadi komunitas untuk saling belajar mengenai seni rupa tradisi dan modern. Jadi di sini kita coba apa yang didapat di perkuliahan yang lebih ke arah modern, kemudian digabung dengan unsur-unsur tradisi. Nah, kemudian ada satu moto kami, Art as Knowledge for Everyone. Jadi seni itu suatu pengetahuan untuk semua orang. Jadi kemudian kita bikin program-program yang melibatkan masyarakat, kemudian siswa ataupun orang-orang yang tertarik untuk berkecimpung di wilayah seni. Nah, di sini untuk mendorong pelibatan semua unsur di masyarakat untuk berkolaborasi dalam berkegiatan kesenian. Jadi kita tidak membeda-bedakan bahwa ini harus yang kemudian seniman atau senang melukis misalkan, tapi ini dibebaskan, jadi siapapun bisa berkegiatan karena kita melihat bahwa seni itu sebagai media untuk kemudian mengeksplorasi hal-hal yang ada di dalam diri tiap orang. Nah, di sini kemudian mengenalkan potensi seni rupa sebagai media pendidikan, ekspresi dan diplomasi budaya. Nah, dalam media pendidikan kita melakukan pelatihan-pelatihan, kemudian sharing ilmu tentang seni rupa, ke sekolah, ke masyarakat. Kadang-kadang kita melakukan semacam pengabdian ke masyarakat untuk mengedukasi mereka mengenai seni-seni yang ada di wilayah mereka. Karena di daerah Jawa Barat itu masih banyak sentra-sentra kesenian yang tradisional, tapi kemudian karena proses modernisasi akhirnya mulai ditinggalkan gitu kan. Tentu berkaitan juga dengan ekspresi, dan terakhir diplomasi budaya biasanya melalui pameran. Jadi pameran-pameran yang kita lakukan biasanya yang 2 bulan lalu ya kita ke UiTM, kita Perak ya, kita pameran di sana, dan kemudian ada semacam workshop-workshop yang berhubungan dengan seni tradisi kita. Nah ini bagian dari diplomasi budaya, bahwa dengan budaya kita bisa lebih erat berhubungannya. Nah ini aktivitinya, jadi pelatihan seni rupa, pameran, diskusi seni, kemudian tata kelola seni. Nah di sini juga mahasiswa yang tergabung dalam atlet ini kemudian berupaya untuk bagaimana sih membuat satu pameran, kemudian merencanakannya seperti apa, temanya seperti apa, dan kemudian mereka mencari juga nih, misalnya kalau ke Malaysia mereka harus cari dananya seperti apa. Nah itu kemudian kita diskusikan, kita cari sumber-sumber pendanaannya, karena kita tidak mau memberatkan orang tua untuk kemudian membiayai kegiatan-kegiatan di luar akademik. Tapi kemudian mahasiswa didorong untuk mencari sumber-sumber pendanaan, entah itu melalui pelatihan, sponsorship, atau kegiatan-kegiatan yang sifatnya bisa mendatangkan pendapatan gitu ya. Nah, kemudian ini yang paling penting tentang local wisdom atau kearifan lokal dalam bahasa Indonesianya. Jadi kita melihat bahwa seni itu bukan hanya berkaitan dengan masalah estetik, tapi berkaitan dengan etik. Karena di ISB itu cenderung mahasiswa masuk dalam lingkungan yang seniman, kuat dengan nuansa seni. Jadi kadang-kadang mereka sudah punya semacam karakter yang berbeda gitu ya. Karena saya ada di dunia seni gitu kan, jadi lebih bebas dalam bersikap segala macam. Nah ini yang kemudian kadang-kadang berbenturan dengan masyarakat gitu ya. Karena dianggap individu kreatif yang kemudian punya kebebasan buat berekspresi. Kalau di wilayah estetik itu mungkin cocok, harus gitu ya, dia harus bisa mengekspresikan apapun. Tapi kemudian berkaitan dengan etik. Etik ini berkaitan dengan masyarakat. Nah ini kita coba dalam artlink ini, bagaimana sih kearifan lokal itu menjadi nilai yang harus dipahami betul oleh para mahasiswa, sehingga mereka bisa secara tidak langsung menampilkan bahwa ini sikap yang baik itu seperti apa, sesuai dengan budaya di kita. Dan kemudian secara estetik mereka juga bisa mengembangkan karya-karyanya. Nah ini Sundanese Ethical Local Wisdom. Ini ada bahasa Sundanya, itu ada cager. Cager itu istilahnya sehat secara fisik dan secara mental. Kemudian bager. Bager itu baik, artinya perilaku yang baik. Kemudian benar. Benar itu benar, artinya dia bisa memilih mana yang harus dilakukan, mana yang tidak. Kemudian pintar itu lebih ke arah keterampilan. Kemudian singer itu bukan penyanyi ya, di sini singer itu lebih ke arah berani atau percaya diri. Nah ini saya jelaskan lebih detail lagi nilai-nilai yang memang harus ini. Nah ini cager dalam bahasa Indonesia itu artinya sehat ya. Ini untuk menunjang kegiatan aktivitas fisik maupun kesehatan secara mental dan spiritual. Karena kita masuk ke wilayah seni yang kadang-kadang tadi mahasiswa itu sudah mindsetnya bahwa saya itu punya kebebasan dan harus unik, harus berbeda dengan yang lain. Dan ini menyebabkan kadang-kadang tidak sehat secara mental gitu, karena mereka lebih mengedepankan individualistiknya dibanding menghargai yang lain. Jadi ini kemudian kita coba bagaimana sih konsep cager ini kita terapkan dalam atlet ini. Kita coba diskusi, kemudian nih contoh-contoh cager tuh ya tadi baik gitu kan, sehat dalam artian fisik maupun secara psikis. Nah, ini sangat menunjang sekali untuk ke yang tahap 2 cager ini lebih ke arah sebenarnya bugger tadi ya. Jadi bugger itu lebih ke arah orang yang baik gitu di situ. Jadi karena di kita dekat dengan Islam, religiusitasnya tinggi, jadi orang yang baik itu jadi acuan gitu kan. Kadang-kadang perilaku yang baik itu di atas ilmu istilahnya, lebih ke arah etik di sana. Jadi bugger dan kemudian saling menghormati segala macam ada di sini dan itu coba kita terapkan. Nah ini benar-benar itu secara kosakata itu artinya benar gitu kan, artinya secara logis dia bisa membedakan mana yang baik dan yang buruk. Dan dalam atling ini kita tarik benar ini ke wilayah logis. Jadi ketika mereka berperilaku, mereka bisa membedakan mana yang baik dan mana yang buruk. Dan kemudian kita tingkatkan lagi pemahaman benar ini dalam konteks kognitif. Artinya mereka ketika mau membuat suatu pameran, mereka harus benar-benar membuat satu konsep yang kemudian secara logis memang ada dasar referensinya. Jadi bukan hanya mengandalkan subjektivitas, tapi harus ada objektivitas di sini. Jadi ini supaya berkaitan dengan yang ada di perkuliahan kan, yang ilmu itu objektif gitu. Nah di sini di wilayah benar ini kita tarik ke wilayah sana. Dan kemudian pinter ini padanannya cerdas, tapi sebenarnya lebih ke arah kemampuan untuk menguasai satu keterampilan. Jadi pintar ini lebih bisa dipelajari, kemudian mereka mengembangkan keterampilannya, seperti misalnya pintar menggambar, pintar melukis, pintar membuat patung. Jadi lebih ke arah keterampilan. Tapi secara keilmuan itu ada di benar yang tadi. Nah ini kemudian di Sunda juga ada istilah pamali. Pamali itu hal yang dilarang. Gitu. Jadi ini yang makna mana yang kemudian harus dipahami lebih ke arah etikanya. Dan kemudian ini singer ini lebih ke arah mawas diri atau gesit atau lebih ke arah percaya diri gitu ya. Jadi ini tahapan kita coba aplikasikan atau implementasikan nilai-nilai yang kemudian telah ada sejak zaman lampau di kebudayaan Sunda, di masyarakat Sunda, tapi kemudian jarang jadi acuan ketika dalam konteks pembelajaran. Nah di atling ini kita coba nih, tahapan tadi ada cager, bager, benar, pinter, dan singer, itu kita coba terapkan. Dan hasilnya ternyata mahasiswa mempunyai perspektif lain tentang pameran atau berkarya itu bukan hanya masalah saya mengekspresikan estetika yang saya ingin sampaikan lewat karya gitu kan, tapi di situ ada dimensi etik karena karya itu tidak bisa dilepaskan dari masyarakatnya gitu. Jadi kita coba mengaitkan bahwa kesenian itu bagian dari masyarakat. Dan itu harus saling tanda kutip ya menghargai satu sama lain. Dan kemudian mindset bahwa seniman itu orang bebas yang kemudian bebas berperilaku. Dulu konsepnya di modern itu kan art for art's sake gitu kan. Seni untuk seni. Jadi dia nggak peduli lagi itu dengan urusan masyarakat, dengan sosial segala macam. Nah kemudian di ISB itu ada namanya budaya. Jadi kan Institut Seni dan Budaya. Jadi budaya itu bagian penting. Dan atling ini mendorong bagaimana sih mahasiswa kemudian mempunyai wawasan tentang budayanya, tentang unsur lokalnya, bahwa unsur lokal nilainya yang harus selalu diterapkan walaupun cara pengimplementasiannya bisa berbeda-beda di tiap masa gitu kan. Nah ini saya coba terapkan tadi yang singer ya. Nah ini saya coba langsung ke dokumentasinya. Jadi kemudian ada identitas yang melekat, dan bangsa yang besar adalah bangsa yang mampu mengimplementasikan nilai-nilai kebudayaannya sendiri. Jadi kita coba itu, karena di pergaulan global ketika pameran-pameran kita akan selalu berhadapan dengan identitas gitu kan. Terutama yang masih muda-muda ketika berpameran Itu ditanyakan identitas itu bukan hanya berkaitan dengan kekhasan estetik, tapi kemudian berkaitan dengan apa yang ingin disampaikan secara budaya. Karena mau tidak mau kita bicara bahwa seni itu refleksi dari budaya yang melingkupinya gitu kan. Nah itu yang kita coba tampilkan, misalkan dalam kegiatan ada waktu di Malaysia kemarin contohnya, kita membuat satu workshop Cirebon Max Painting, terus Glass Painting dari Cirebon. Jadi Cirebon ini daerah sekitar 100 km dari Bandung. Dan di sana tuh jadi pusat seni tradisi ya, perpaduan dari unsur Cina, Arab, Hindu, Buddha, Islam. Itu gabung di sana semua. Dan kemudian jadi satu, dan inilah yang kemudian kita coba, artefak-artefak ini kita coba reinterpretasikan, kemudian kita coba terapkan ke wilayah-wilayah yang lebih modern. Nah, salah satunya misalkan sebagai wujud diplomasi budayanya, kita coba ketika tiap kegiatan di luar negeri, mahasiswa itu selalu ditekankan untuk Anda harus melakukan workshop yang menampilkan ciri khas budaya kita gitu kan, jadi muncul kebanggaannya. Nah, di sini mereka juga pergi ke Cirebon dulu, kemudian berinteraksi dengan masyarakatnya, tahu sejarahnya seperti apa. Nah, setelah itu mereka mulai merancang berapa lama nih workshop segala macamnya, dan kemudian cara penyampaiannya seperti apa. Nah, ini selalu berkaitan dengan 5 konsep tadi, ada cager, bager, terus benar, pinter, dan singer. Nah, di sini mahasiswa dituntut untuk berani, artinya singer nih, berani untuk kemudian mempresentasikan apa yang pengetahuan yang mereka dapat, kemudian dipresentasikan dan bersama-sama dengan mahasiswa dari UiTM. Nah, ini kemudian untuk yang sifatnya lebih modern, kita coba tadi ada seni sebagai pengetahuan untuk semua orang. Kita coba masuk dari Asling ini masuk ke sekolah-sekolah untuk kemudian mengajarkan tentang seni, bahwa seni itu bukan hanya wilayah ekspresi, tapi kemudian seni itu hanya media untuk misalkan meningkatkan kepercayaan diri, kemudian gimana sih mereka berkarya, saling menghargai. Jadi kita coba melalui Asling ini seni kemudian kita jadikan satu yang lebih luas, bukan hanya masalah ekspresinya, keindahan saja, tapi dia punya aspek-aspek lain yang bisa mendorong kreativitas siswa, terus kepercayaan diri untuk kemudian ini karya saya, dan kemudian ada nilai saling menghargai. Ketika mereka berbeda, bukan berarti yang satu salah, yang satu benar gitu kan, tapi kemudian sama-sama bahwa ini sama bagusnya, dan nilai-nilai itu yang kemudian kita kembangkan. Ini ketika kita di Tokyo, kita coba sama polanya, jadi selalu membawa seni-seni tradisi, kemudian kita workshopkan. Karena itu dengan itu kita secara tidak langsung memperkenalkan bahwa ini keunggulan kita. Dan pameran itu menjadi penting, pameran di luar negeri itu menjadi penting buat kami, karena melalui pameran itu kita bisa melihat sebetulnya mulai terasa gitu kan, ketika keluar negeri kita tanpa membawa identitas yang khas itu jadi dipertanyakan. Sama seperti ketika misalkan mau pameran di Tokyo, kita semuanya karyanya lebih ke arah modern, apa pembedanya gitu kan, dan kemudian apa yang menariknya. Tapi ketika ada unsur-unsur tradisi yang masuk dalam karya jadi satu tema, itu jadi satu penarik, bahwa ini loh budaya yang kemudian berbeda dengan apa yang ada di Jepang misalkan, dan itu terjadi dialog. Ketika terjadi dialog artinya terjadi semacam pertukaran informasi, dan mahasiswa yang ikut serta itu merasa bahwa budaya saya dihargai ya di luar, karena mereka antusias gitu kan. Tapi begitu pulang lagi, nah itu mereka punya pandangan yang berbeda mengenai budaya mereka gitu kan, beda dengan yang kemudian hanya berkutat di Indonesia sendiri gitu kan. Pameran-pameran tidak akan terasa gitu kan, bagaimana sih budaya lokal itu menjadi keunggulan ketika ada di luar gitu ya. Nah ini pameran-pameran yang pernah dilakukan. Yang terakhir di Pansara, ini yang di Jepang, kita selalu bikin semacam pameran-pameran yang sifatnya kolaborasi, artinya kita pameran bisa dengan Jepang, itu di Jepangnya mereka ada seniman juga, ada kita kirim juga, jadi pamerannya bersama. Nah itu mungkin presentasi singkat yang coba saya tawarkan. Jadi tadi nilai-nilai lokal itu ternyata bisa diimplementasikan untuk melihat bahwa seni itu tidak hanya di wilayah estetik, tapi punya aspek etik. Nah aspek etik ini yang kadang-kadang diabaikan, jadi fokusnya ke wilayah estetiknya. Sementara kegiatan-kegiatan yang berhubungan dengan pameran, dengan diskusi, segala macam, itu selalu ada aspek-aspek di luar estetiknya, termasuk misalkan merancang satu pameran. Untuk merancang suatu pameran tidak hanya berorientasi pada karya yang terbaik yang seperti apa, tapi kemudian nilai yang ingin ditampilkan melalui pameran itu apa. Jadi pameran juga hanya semacam media untuk kemudian mahasiswa bisa bekerja sama, membuat satu program, di situ terjadi diskusi, saling menghargai, kemudian mampu menahan diri untuk kemudian tidak terlalu misalkan gaya senimannya mendominasi, tapi kemudian saling tukar pikiran. Jadi di situ sih sebetulnya yang kita coba implementasikan local wisdom, dalam hal ini Sundanese local wisdom, ke wilayah-wilayah sikap. Itu Pak RADZUAN presentasi yang saya sampaikan, nanti lanjut ditanya jawab untuk pendalaman. Terima kasih semuanya.
Terima kasih Pak Agus. Presentasi yang sangat menarik ya Pak Agus ya. Dan saya sangat bersetuju Pak Agus, kalau kita bercerita tentang konteks mahasiswa itu sendiri, ataupun kalau kita boleh lebarkan mungkin di dalam generasi muda ya. Ya lepas tu mereka ini perlu memahami terlebih dahulu tentang kebudayaan, adat, nilai-nilai diri, dan seterusnya memastikan agar jati diri itu seperti yang Pak Agus cakap tadi itu ya, sehat, baik, benar, pintar itu sentiasa berada di dalam keadaan yang terkawal, gitu kan. Dia bagi memastikan perkembangan seni karya itu dalam keadaan yang saya boleh katakan sebagai karya yang masih merendah diri tetapi dia mengangkat satu martabat ke arah yang lebih tinggi. InsyaAllah kalau kita ada soalan, I just want to remind you that we still broadcasting live. Kita masih lagi bersiaran langsung terus daripada UiTM Perak channel melalui channel YouTube. Pak Agus, kalau Pak Agus boleh terangkan tentang nilai-nilai mungkin kearifan tempatan itu sendiri seperti dalam adat desam atau tradisi tempatan dapat diintegrasikan ke dalam bidang seni secara kreatif untuk memperkukuhkan dan memartabatkan warisan budaya tempatan. Mungkin kita bercakap tentang konteks nilai-nilai kearifan tempatan itu sendiri Pak Agus. Kalau seperti di Indonesia macam mana? Sebab saya melihat kalau di Malaysia Pak Agus, kita melihat kita ada kearifan orang-orang dahulu ya Pak Agus ya. Dia melihat mengkuang itu dan akhirnya mengadaptasikan, memanfaatkan mengkuang itu menjadi kita panggil tika kan. Kita tengok seramik tanah liat itu dimanfaatkan untuk menjadi singgora dan bermacam-macam lagi. Dan mungkin pada pandangan Pak Agus, nilai-nilai kearifan tempatan itu untuk memperkukuhkan dan memartabatkan warisan budaya tempatan.
Ya, jadi nilai kalau di Malaysia nilai-nilai tempatan, nilai-nilai lokal.
Nilai lokal, ya.
Jadi di Indonesia kan banyak suku ya.
Ya.
Dan kemudian mereka masing-masing mengembangkan nilai-nilai lokalnya sendiri. Mereka punya warisan lokalnya.
Iya, betul.
Kebetulan kami di Bandung itu lekat dengan Sunda, ya. Nah, Sunda itu punya tadi, kalau manusia itu pengen sempurna, pakai 5 tahap itu tadi, yang cager, bager, segala macam. Nah kemudian bagaimana nih hubungannya dengan pengimplementasiannya ke mahasiswa gitu kan, dalam pembelajaran misalkan. Nah nilai-nilai ini kan berkaitan dengan pola sikap, terus cara berpikir logis, segala macam, jadi bisa direinterpretasikan. Jadi nilainya tetap, tapi kemudian caranya disesuaikan dengan kebutuhan sekarang. Seperti misalkan tadi, ketika kita masuk, mahasiswa itu udah merasa menjadi seniman. Ketika merasa jadi seniman, kadang-kadang mereka tuh lebih arogan gitu kan. Karena wah saya seniman, saya bebas dong gitu kan. Karena konsepnya modern tuh, art for art's sake, seni itu untuk seni. Saya nggak ada di wilayah hubungan dengan etik gitu kan. Nah kemudian tapi ini selalu berbenturan di masyarakat. Ketika karya-karya mereka kemudian tanda kutip ya menyinggung simbol-simbol sakral atau apa gitu yang ada di masyarakat, itu terjadi perbenturan. Jadi masyarakat semakin jauh bahwa oh ini seni modern beda gitu dengan yang tradisi. Nah sebetulnya ini bisa digabung gitu kan. Nah melalui nilai-nilai itu kita coba. Jadi nilai itu jadi acuannya. Oh misalkan tadi ada nilai yang baik seperti apa sih? Benar itu seperti apa. Nah itu kemudian jadi acuan supaya mereka aware bahwa ini masyarakat juga bagian dari lingkungan mereka gitu. Dan masyarakat kadang-kadang pengen tahu tentang seni, cuma tadi kan sudah takut duluan gitu kan ketika melihat seni, oh itu berbeda segala macam. Nah kita coba dekatkan ini, makanya program-program kita tadi ke masyarakat, kita mengembangkan seni lingkungan, kita datang ke masyarakat, kemudian lihat seperti apa sih mereka bisa mengembangkan keilmuan seni itu tidak harus di sekolah gitu. Jadi masyarakat tuh punya nilai-nilai estetik sendiri yang kemudian menurut kita wah itu tuh rendah gitu kan. Tapi ternyata kita harus menilai dari sudut pandang masyarakat. Nah itu sih yang kemudian kita coba lakukan. Yang pertama bersikap baik dulu. Kemudian setelah mampu bersikap baik, artinya bisa diterima oleh semua orang. Dan kemudian tadi logis, artinya mereka benar bisa pikir ini benar atau salah. Mereka akan berkarya seperti ini, nanti imbasnya seperti apa ya ke masyarakat. Nah kemudian tahapan lanjutnya itu pinter. Pinter itu mereka terampil untuk mengungkapkan apa sih yang ingin ditampilkan tadi secara estetik, ya, punya keterampilan khusus. Dan terakhir mereka berani kemudian menghadirkan itu dan dikomunikasikannya dengan baik. Gitu kita coba, ini masih proses panjang karena identitas itu muncul kalau saya yakin karena ada nilainya. Ketika nilai tidak ada, identitas itu jadi hanya identitas di masalah perupaan saja, tidak berpengaruh terhadap sikap. Nah itu sih yang kemudian kita coba dorong bahwa berkarya itu ada aspek etik dan estetik. Itu Pak.
Oh ya betul. Saya sangat setuju kerana kita kena admit that kita kena terima setiap karya seni itu adalah dihasilkan dan akhirnya manfaat itu harus disebarkan kepada masyarakat setempat kan. Gitu. Saya rasa ia satu perkongsian yang sangat baik Pak Agus. Dan saya boleh simpulkan secara umumnya warisan budaya amat penting kerana ia mencerminkan identiti serta keunikan suatu komuniti dan ia memerlukan penghormatan terhadap tradisi. Dan sebelum kita melakukan semua ini, merealisasikan apa yang kita ingin lakukan, integriti diri itu perlulah dibajai ya, dengan jati diri, nilai-nilai seperti sihat, baik, benar, pintar dan berani itu sendiri. Dan insya-Allah ia akan pasti setiap artwork yang dikeluarkan, karya-karya dihasilkan, insya-Allah dia akan menguntungkan bukan saja daripada sektor pendidikan tetapi ia juga akan memberi manfaat kepada masyarakat dan pelbagai pihak. Terima kasih Pak Agus, satu perkongsian yang sangat menarik saya kira. So insyaAllah selepas ini kita akan bersama dengan Miss NORLEEN daripada US. Dan mungkin kita berehat sebentar. We are back, and this is International Art Dialogue 2023. Still broadcast continuously through the UiTM Perak channel on YouTube. Then inshallah still we are still look forward your response and any question you can be able to leave in the chat box, inshallah. After this, we are going to inshallah our panelists will answer the question. So the second presentation we have today is also an interesting one. I'm greatly inspired by a statement that emphasizes conveying unity through diversity. It's about sharing tinted with the human desire to protect and be protected. Individuals offer something unique to become a part of a group. This membership in turn strengthens the whole because a united group strengthens the community and continues to support one and another. Delving into the community, I invite our next panelist, NOSRI, Assistant Professor, General Fine Art Program Coordinator, St. Louis Community College, Forest Park, United States, to share the precious experience. Please welcome NOSRI. Hi.
Hello. Thank you for having me. Thank you, everyone. Selamat pagi. Good morning to everyone in Malaysia.
Selamat pagi, Nolin.
Selamat pagi. So it's evening here. It's 7:42 p.m. So I'd like to introduce myself. My name is NOSRI. I was born in Klang, Malaysia. Dibesarkan di Kelana Jaya. I grew up in Kelana Jaya. And today, I have the honor to talk about this concept that I had still been exploring since my graduate program titled Community. It's exploring the relationship between ceramics, compositions, gratitude, and social cohesion. And I'm gonna talk a little bit about self, because when we talk about making art, it's important to actually figure out self and figure out what we like, who are we. And every time I explain myself or I introduce myself to my students, the viewer here or people here in the United States, I always emphasize on where I'm from in terms of the country, Southeast Malaysia, and a little description of it's a city, it's close to the beach, and it's close to the agriculture. You know, we pretty much close to all this beautiful sight that is, to me, something that I miss. And also the diversity in terms of ethnicity, and it comes with food, comes with the celebration of individual culture, and also introduce them how does Malaysian flag look like. So I live now in St. Louis, Missouri. I live with my husband and my daughter here, and I'm a permanent resident of the United States, but still rakyat Malaysia. And this is my family. It's important to kind of I want to talk about this in terms of, since I left the country to study in the United States, what I left is basically I left my family and my friends, the comfort, the things that I know. And because of that, I ponder upon this all often and think about the connections that I've missed and the connection that I want to make. So to have that sense of belonging again, you know. So I have a huge family in Malaysia. I'm one of 7 siblings, and you can see the picture on the far left and the bottom right. And in the United States, that's on the left side. You can see that's my husband and my daughter Nura. And I'm very fortunate in the United States. I have a very diverse family. My mother-in-law is Jenny Sharp, and my sister-in-law married to Malcolm, and he's African American. And with such a diverse family, and we're all love making art. And when I was living in Kelana Jaya, my family is known for nasi lemak, jual nasi lemak. It's called nasi lemak cikgu, if you've heard of that, in the 80s. And it's amazing how this dish that is just a makanan biasa, you find it in wrapped daun pisang in newspaper, and you sell it for like 50 sen, 1 ringgit. And then my mom and my dad started this ayam berempah, and then also sotong. And my mom is Bengkulu from Rawang, and my dad is Minang. And this combination of dish have supported our family in a way. It became like a working machine. And I've been working in the kitchen my whole life, I think, and that's actually helped me propel in the things that I do here in the United States. My mother, she's master of spice. Not just my mother, I bet every mother is in Malaysia. That is something that I carry with me. The idea of flavor, the balance of flavor, the texture of food. That conversation is always around in the family. So the way it looks, the way it tastes, it's super important, especially when it's the family business. It's part of the things that my parents, it's basically trying to make sure that our tongue understand the flavor and our eyes understand the texture that they want, how the food should look like. So I'm accustomed to this abundance of materials, which is also I miss rice, to see that much rice. And in the kitchen, since I was young, that's what I did. I cut onions. I can do anything I want. I can go to school. I can go hang out with my friends, but I have to cut 2 gunny of onions every day. I remember when I was little, if there was an Olympic of cutting onions, I'd be the top medalist for cutting onion. I can cut onions so fast. So I'm comfortable with tools, so to speak. I can figure out how to use tools very quickly. So influences in my family, my dad, he is such a role model and an inspiration. He was a teacher. He was a compassionate and generous man who taught me the meaning of service to the family and the community at large. Of course, as a businessman, he had that the sense of leadership that he also wants to contribute back to the community by helping the community. Of course, my mom, as she have taught me the discipline and the meaning of hard work. She's who I learned about strong work ethic, self-discipline, and patience. When I was in the United States, Nauma Powell, she started an art school, a nonprofit art school that emphasized on teaching children from the age of 4 all the way adult to the age of 80 plus. And she hired me to teach children when I did not know yet then that I can teach. But she told me that she sensed that I love people and I love what I do. So that's a good combination. So based on that, and I learned from her, and she's the one who taught me about ceramic studio management, how to manage and navigate through materials in a classroom setting. It's all about sustainability. And then she grew up during the Great Depression time, so she has this sense of gratitude, definitely a sense of gratitude to the material and to the things that she owns and she have in the school. And to care for it is another way for us as a steward for the next generation to use. And to her, in the world of this technology and modern world, it's important for us human to touch things, to make things, to build back our esteem, and to figure out how to troubleshoot, to think outside the box. So she's such an inspiration. And so I'm going to go through very quickly all the professors that I learned from. Stephen Robinson, he taught me how to throw on the potter's wheel. Ching Wan Chang, He's a professor at China National University, and he came to United States for a study abroad with his students. And I had the opportunity to meet him and his students, and we had this great adventure to Iowa and meeting all these fantastic ceramics artists and potters. David East, he is the chair now of ceramics at the Maryland Institut College of Art, and he's fantastic, brilliant way of using words and conceptualizing in the work and the material of choice is ceramics to create something that is not pottery, but sculpture using clay and playing with words. And it's such a fantastic experience to experience the being a student and learning about the importance of context and intention in work. Catherine Johnson Seabird, another amazing artist. She worked with slab, which is another form of another technique working with clay. Fantastic. She works with slab like a ninja. Like when we work with slab, we sometimes after rolling a piece of clay, we are so careful not to break it, and she just moved the clay in a way that it's so mesmerizing. And I felt like I was gravitated towards teachers and artists that is so passionate about what they're doing, and in your heart, like, I want to be just like her. That was I felt that when I saw her working with clay. Joe Pins, a professor, he was one of my advisors when I was in the graduate program at University of Missouri Columbia. Very particular about the detail of work, and he does a lot of trompe-l'oeil work. Another a great mentor. So B. Clark, my teacher, my mentor, who have taught me how to see work in the way that he asks questions that sometimes I don't address. Like, you don't address the elephant in the room, and he always asks these questions like, who are you, NORLEEN? What do you like? Who are you? What is your ethos? What do you like? Because he wants his students to figure that out and then tell the story. The way we touch the material, the way we manipulate the clay, we have to tell our stories, and it could be anything. It has to be from us, and that was a fantastic experience as well that I learned as an artist, and I also grew as a person. So as an undergrad, I had the opportunity to work with all those professors, and my main firing that I was introduced to is wood firing. And when we work together in the community, I love the idea that we all collect the woods and cut it and feed the kiln with wood in a rotation of 6 hours a shift for the next 3 days. And then we, gather the wood, load up the kiln, making the work itself as a community, load up the kiln, fire it together, and then unload it, and then look at all the effect of wood and flash and ashes on the pots. The subtleness, the beauty that came from the kiln. So I did also learn different firing, like raku firing. And the thing about pottery is that you have to continuously make them so that you're familiar with the material, how to engineer, so to speak, the form that you are trying to achieve. And so Stephen Robinson told me once, if you want to be good at this, make 1,000 bottles. And that's what I did. I made more than 1,000 bottles. But from there, I understood how to move clay on the potter's wheel. This is some of my wood firing jar. It's fire at cone 10. And I also like the idea of playing with the idea of different surface, glossy versus matte. And I love how stain on pottery antiquated the surface and have this wood-like surface. And I do love carving a sgraffito of those trees. when I was a science student when I was in school in Sekolah Menengah, and I was in Sekolah Menengah Perempuan Seriaman, and I was a science student. And I remember there's this one pondok at the back where we all will hang out. I remember seeing a lot of trees, and there was a lake. And if I have a pencil and a paper in my hand, I would start drawing trees, with those individual leaves. It kind of feel relaxing, meditating, and it was calming. And I remember when I decided to put any surface design, I decided to do something that I'm familiar with. So my hand immediately start drawing trees and tree branches and leaves, and put it in a way that I felt felt like a window, or you see it out through a window or a door. You will see it throughout my work. And this is my expression at the window when living in a four-season country like here in the United States. Every time there's change of weather, you start to see the geese start flying south. And of course, in Columbia, Missouri, be hundreds of hot air balloon going through neighborhood, and you hear the sound of the flame, the jet. So to me, it was just what a sight to see, which is just so different. It changes all the time with the four season. So why teapots? We love to drink tea in our culture, and I felt like I need to find something. I mean, I don't have to find it. It's already stated that it's a universal act almost to drink tea. At that time, now I can say it's a platform to talk about something that everyone understood. Drinking tea, as back home, there's that tea time, time to eat drinks from the colonial time, the English tea time that's adapted in our culture. That's a familiar set there. You can see that's a very fancy set. And also if you go to the mall, and you can see like the set for the Chinese tea set, which is have a different way of making the tea, and they're very particular about the flavor, and the chawan is smaller, so you can experience that sip. It's very poetic in a way. It's just enough warmth, and you sip it. It's quenched your thirst. It's good for you, and it's a moment to having conversation and pause, and then add more tea and talk. It's in a way to stay. It's about your wellness, in a way to take a break from your daily life. And we also know, most of us heard and know about the Japanese tea ceremony, and it's such a performative act of making this tea, the elegance of the maker, and even the costume to the kettle that they use, the wooden bamboo ladle, and even the way that they pour the liquid into the bowl, the tea bowl, and the way they whisk it gently yet firm. It's such a performative thing. And this is something familiar to me in Malaysia. We all drink tea. I can tell, like my dad, if we start sitting down, and then there's always tea, coffee, or ice syrup. This is kind of like something familiar. You make straight from the stove, put tea in it, and make your concoction, and then pour it in a cup. In US, tea bags. So there's a lot of that, of course, in Malaysia as well. This is something familiar. Teh tarik. This is something that when I explain to my students or my friends, you have condensed milk, and you tarik so that you keep it cool, and then when you pour it in a clear glass, you can see the color of the teh tarik and that foam. And it's delicious. It's like a dessert. So I started making teapots when I was an undergrad, and I started thinking about how to break the surface between the glazed area and unglazed areas, graffito and texture area versus a soft area. It's endless. I felt like this is something that in terms of composition, I can go so many ways. And the handles have texture. It was quite difficult for me to hold the teapot. So I started thinking I can put texture to have some sort of grip, and I'm taking the opportunity to design that. But some people say it looks like octopus, but I did other textures so that I can have a good grip of the teapot. And when I was a student worker at the college, I found a statement by B. Clark. At that time, I was so much into making teapots. So I saw this and I thought it was such a true statement. I'll read it for you. Some potters make teapots to serve tea. Some craftsmen make teapots in which to pour loving attention. Some artists make teapots to make a statement, to communicate. Some philosophers make teapots to hold their thoughts. Some seekers make teapots to discover truth. All are correct. And this was written by B. Clark for one of the assignments in the class for the advanced students. And I thought, wow, I have so much to explore. Who am I as a potter, as a craftsman, as an artist, as a philosopher, and also as a seeker? So the journey continued on. And I remember that year I took a class of a women's study class, and we talk about to reflect on self at the level of self, at level of micro, macro, community, and in the world. How do you see yourself? How do you act? And considering you act for yourself or you act knowing that there's also others around you and you represent others. And I started to think about, and that's in terms of teapot, I was making different sizes form and I start to stack them. And it's mostly because I was teaching children at that time how to make pots, bowls and cups. And I remember having the same kids after several years, they want to be challenged. So I taught them how to make teapots. And so every class that I taught, I have a teapot that I make with them, and there are different sizes based on how much pound of clay they can use in that class. So I remember taking those teapot home and I start, how do I put this together? And then when I put them together, they look like a big duck with ducklings, So I start stacking them, and then I start to attach the teapot to the lid of another teapot. So a lid of a teapot is another teapot. So it's endless. Just remind me at that time in our art history, we were learning about the Brancusi form, which is the infinity form. So I just kind of created a Brancusi form in a form of a teapot. To me, that was kind of fascinating. I didn't realize until I did so. So when I took the teapot to my students, just imagine they're like 8, 9, 10 years old. And one of them named Elliot, he said, "Oh my God, that's a teapot. A lid to a teapot is another teapot." And he said, "That's endless." And I was like, there you go, you got it. It's a Brancusi form. But in the middle and the far right, I use this wood that is it's kind of weed here in Missouri. It's called the honeysuckle, and I like this wood because it's when you shave off the bark, it's almost white in terms of color. So you can stain it with any stain you want, and it bowed by itself. So I don't have to use steam to change the shape of the wood. It just bowed by itself. And then I took a bigger branch, and they're very light. I took a bigger branch and make a hole and put them together. So because they're light, they can hold still for the size, for the height. Usually when it's heavy on top, it will fall and it breaks the teapot, but not this one. So these are some teapots that I made It's called the story teapot, you know, and the idea of when you drink tea, you talk, you tell stories, bercerita, and it's icebreaker, and then it's stacking, and so it also represents community in terms of the size of the teapot, you know, and the big size is for a larger number of people. Medium-sized teapot represent family size teapot, and the smaller one for an individual. So story teapot. I did some carving, relief work. I think this is the one that I discovered that I can still work with clay when it's dry, and I can carve it like stone, a soft stone. I was about to throw this piece away because I found out the bag that was covering it there's a hole, and then when I opened it and it was dry, and then I have nothing to lose, so I start carving it with 1 point perspective. It's kind of fun because the clay is already hard, and I carve it. It's easy to make it look like bricks because it's what it is. And then that time too, and I was helping my friend building her house, and I helped another friend building a kiln, anagama. I think that's the reason why I put bricks on top of this stacking teapot. I call it hacienda anagama because I was helping my friend building her house and another friend building anagama. So it does reflect me, my surrounding reflect what I do on my work. And this piece right here was selected by the Missouri Art Council and represent Missouri art in 2010, which is one side it's me looking in the wood, looking at the deer. I'm sorry, I don't have an image of that, but this one is the geese again, traveling, moving. And so these are smaller size, which is, I think this is only 11 inches. And this is all 32 inches tall. So they're pretty big. And I start to make it smaller, but keep the proportion, the scale smaller. It's easy to mail the work to an exhibition. And here I was studying about the Amarna period in Egyptian, where the symbol of finger pointing is a symbol of the pharaoh who just gave birth. So at that time, I just gave birth to my daughter. So I had to put that. I have to use that symbol in my work with holding a bird eye view. Is also another way of me looking at stuff whenever I'm stuck in a situation I felt negative, and I try to like look at the situation from the bird eye view. In the graduate program, I did receive my minor in undergrad in art history. I was fascinated with certain civilization and the remnants that left behind, mostly in building, in the Colosseum, the Ziggurat and the Ur dynasty. It's fantastic to see this form that represent their culture, their community, and it's also the first thing that will be attacked, you know, a destruction, and hoping to weaken the spirit of the people. But when I look at this formation, it's such a formidable structure. I was always attracted to formidable structure. And Jun Kaneko, I was studying about his method and technique of building huge sculpture. And I felt like, I don't know, that's amazing to me to see a man making large object. It looks like alien eggs, some sort, you know. I had the opportunity to meet and talk to him several times. With a fantastic opportunity to be in the United States and to meet these artists. Martin Poirier, an African-American sculptor, elegant way of portraying abstracted form using materials that becomes the context of the conversation. The material itself is the context to talk about the situation, other social issues, or just about environment. Ruth Duckworth, ceramicist, work with ceramic, mainly porcelain, and she's one of my favorite, I could say, artist in terms of the way she is so playful when she worked with clay. Giorgio Morandi, such a simple painting of depicting a still life of bottles and a mundane object, but somehow the color and the way it was rendered, I can feel the afternoon, or the afternoon light in the room, in the kitchen. It managed to take me somewhere, almost like daydreaming, and his work able to do that to me. Agnes Martin, American painter, a woman, and she's when I look at her work, I felt like she's talking about the element, which is in this case line, how line can be a strong design element, and then you can create so many and make you look at things, the nuances of the whole design. I like how artwork can sometimes make you be in a state of quietude and look at and ponder upon work, and ponder upon those every single decision that she made. I know it's a repetitious of line, but if you were to look at the work, you see every single line that was drawn to have some sort of energy. Soloist, the idea of a square can be conjugated into different composition. You can, I think the first time I read about his concept about a square can be a cube, can be portrayed many ways. So it's just, it's endless in terms of composition if you have that in mind. So when I was in grad school too, I started to think about my material. So I do work with two material, which is earthenware, which is on the left. You can see the consistency of the material is different because they have different size particle, and they have their own ability in terms of a form that you can make with them. And the porcelain has this very soft, and they're the hardest during bone dry, that I enjoy working with them, especially sanding it to get that softness, almost translucent, the translucency of the material. Sometimes I feel like I don't have to fire them, that's done. And I also work with this glaze, which is when I was in working for Naoma Powell I worked with her for 6 years. And my job in the studio was to, among all the tasks, firing kiln, taking care of the cleanliness organization, I also maintain the glaze consistency. And I remember she talked about this white glaze specifically to make sure the specific gravity for the glaze is maintained so that it won't run. And when it runs, it gets all over the kiln shelf and it will ruin the kiln shelf. I remember when in grad school, because my undergrad work, it's very rich in the surface with sgraffito and carving and inlay. And in the grad school, I was told to talk about or think about form and composition. So it was the hardest thing for me to think about it. But in terms of, because my hand immediately went to sgraffito, went to draw stuff on the surface. But I like the challenge. So now I start thinking about this glaze because there's a drama in that glaze, the way it ran. And there's a different quality between the white on the glaze, which is shiny and reflective, against the frost-like surface of the porcelain. And I was I learned that in Japanese language, is 1,000 way of explaining snow. So it makes sense, because just the way that the light reflects, or the white reflect the colors around it, it changes. So earthenware has the ability to build. This clay is the same as brick clay. There's all sorts of earthenware, and this is the one without grog or sand, and you can build all sorts of complicated forms that have nooks and holes. And these are all hollow, they're not solid. So this is my graduate work as change, and I call them compositions. And again, I started with the base, and I create a puzzle on top, and like it created by itself. Now I have to find vessels that fit the space that I created. So I created problems for me to solve later, and it's endless in terms of composition. These are some of the composition during my graduate program. Even the cups, I do measure the amount of cup, but I will take the cup the way it is. Whatever it is that I throw, and I decided to keep them. They have like a specific list, so I will make sure that it's this much in terms of weight, and it's this many pulls, this thin, this height. But the way that I cut it off and take it off, I let the malleability of the clay, I took advantage of it by the way I grip the surface. So the dent, the way that it moved when I touch it, I decided to keep them. It was endless. I think I had about 50 plus composition, start making 2 different bases and how one react to the other, height of cups within the subtleness of the height of the cups and the shadows it reflects, playing with light as well. And so I called my thesis show Gratitude Vessels, and it was hard to pick out of all the composition. I picked 19. And I sold all of those composition except for 5 large ones. So I did take some of this composition to a different gallery. I moved to St. Louis from Columbia, Missouri. It's about 2 hours away, an hour and 45 minutes. And I joined this residency and then have the opportunity to still play with the clay and composition. And this residency is called Craft Alliance, and where they have classes that offer to the community in terms of jewelry, ceramics, woodworking, printmaking. And when I live in the city, I didn't have a car. I was riding my bicycle, and I get to the train station and get the bike in the train, and then the train will go in between buildings, that I see everything's upright, windows, and it affected the way that I create the base. So I have all this upright bases that looks like, this one looks like a little bit like a church. And sometimes I use different types of earthenware that don't, meaning they crack while they're cooling. And I took the opportunity of using kintsugi, which is in Japanese called the art of damage, which is I fill it up with, instead of lacquer, I'm using some sort of like a 2-part adhesive that is sticky like lacquer, but it's not. And I use gold leaf on the surface. So kind of like excited about having these cracks here and there, and I'm going to embrace it. And I create this a little bit of a contrast on the surface between shininess and that wood-like surface. And then I start to put enamel, palladium on the left, which is silver, on top of porcelain. Is enough silica in porcelain without putting this enamel. Usually they put it on a glazed surface, but this case I just put straight away on the clay itself. And it has this dull metal like instead of so shiny, which I kind of like that. And I start playing with the clay itself. The porcelain itself is on the earthenware. So the white design that you see on the clay, the basics from the porcelain itself. So this is a jar, and underneath that teapot is a jar, and that jar is full of cookies. So, and I start thinking about wall, hanging those bases on the wall. This is called memory. So I start thinking about how do I compose something, and thinking about remembering someone, by then I've lost quite a few friends and family members, and I wasn't able to see them. It was devastating, and that pain, sometimes I trying to figure out a way to think about death and think about family, think about loss, and when I go to the studio and make my work, I kind of think about the history of clay itself, the object and the meaning of certain form. I think it by itself, and all of a sudden I was told that the work looked like I'm making a grave marker, or the form on the wall looks like a sarcophagus, which is where a body is wrapped like a mummified and put in a coffin. So I do have new approach. This is my new work. Instead of making a base that has no function, now the base is a teapot, and my stacking teapot is coming back to the work, and the porcelain is now on the surface of the clay, and now I'm working on the clay. The earthenware is going to be on the surface of porcelain. I'm still testing the work, and I also use black walnut as a base, and just work on composition, that relationship between one form and the other, having the hierarchy of height. It felt humanized. It's just a vessel of pouring, but it still felt humanized. And I enjoy playing around with this composition. And this is some of the, I also start drawing graphite on my porcelain, because I love the black graphite in the raw porcelain. If you look at those cups, those are all graphite sketched onto them, and mimicking the surface design on the wall base. So the community, it's the name was given by my husband, because I won as a commission, as a public art commission. It's a 1% commission for art. Every government building, if it's just built, 1% of that should be to its art, and it's for the city of Columbia. And I made a tea set for 200, and the titles was tea set for 200. And my husband said, well, let's play with, do a word play, community, because it is, we emailed a bunch of people to come to the ceremony of the reception of the artwork for the 4th floor. It's funny because I was told just to make my proposed work, and I decided, why make it and put it behind a vitrine? Let's use it, and now the work becomes an artifact of what happened. Artifact is an object that was almost like something that they preserved because it was used, or it commemorate of the people at that time. So at this time, they just had an election, and I know that it was intense. And that time they're trying to figure out where City of Columbia should be, more to its business or more to its nature, and business won. And I know there was like that feeling of they're going to lose that small town feel, and they're going to have tons of parking lot, because business means a lot more parking lot. So I remember I had 4 tables with 4 different sets, and I felt like everyone's already went to the tables from what area they're from. I felt like there's not a sense of cohesiveness. So at very last minute, first of all, I almost made the person who's in charge of this, the public art program, had a heart attack when I told them that we're going to use the artwork. People are going to touch the artwork. And then after that, I changed the whole configuration of drinking it. I found out when the city hall meeting is going to be. That's when the ceremony happened. And I found out that 1 hour before, they have 1 hour before the city council meeting. So I have 1 hour to come out with something that that the councilman and the mayor can come out and say something, and the people come and drink together, and the mayor say, what should I toast to? And I remember telling him, whatever it is, make sure that everyone will cheer. So it was, and that's the only prompt that I gave him. And so he said, to the prosperity of Lady Columbia, which is the name of the town, is Columbia, Missouri. And everyone raised their cups. And it was kind of automatically people understood, and they all cheers. And after they drank and they cleaned the cups, and they're the one who put the cups back into those bases. And I'm no longer the one who composed where the cup should be. They're the one, and then wherever they put the cups becomes permanent. And that's where it is, in the fourth floor. And the fourth floor is the water and utility department. So it's perfect for tea making. You need water and you need electricity, or you need heat to heat up the water. That's another set. And so when I moved to St. Louis and Missouri, I was part of this residency with the Craft Alliance. And that time, it's the midst of this, if you've heard about Michael Brown, the riot at Florissant and Ferguson, where the younger generation, the African-American, feeling they're being mistreated by the authority, especially young kids. And of course, the gun violence, and not just the gun violence among the people, amongst the cups and the civilian. I remember at that time, the head of the residency is like, hey, NORLEEN, what do you have in mind for your big project with the community? And I remember sitting in the train that day. I was thinking about, I want to do something. If anyone were to ask me what I want to do in St. Louis, I wanted to do something like what I did with Columbia, Missouri, but I wanted to do with children. I want to do something like community with the next generation, because I felt like we've done so much damage. for a lot of this to happen, we need to give the next generation a chance, or a chance to make it, to be prosper, to live a better life. I remember thinking about when they were cheering to the prosperity of Lady Columbia. I remember thinking like, those cups are translucent. I can see the tea in it. I remember thinking about, what if the next set I made, I want the kids to write down their hopes and their dreams. What do they want for their future? If we were to cheer, I want all of us to cheer each other's hope and wish. And I want it to write in stone. I want it to be in the cup. I want it to be translucent so light can go through it. And surprisingly, that day when I was thinking about it, the director of the artists in residence called me to her office and said, hey, NORLEEN, what do you have in mind? What do you want to do? And I mentioned all of this, and at the same time, it's a huge corporation called the Emeren. It's putting in money, but the money has to go through this area of high school, which is Ferguson Florissant school district. And I got the commission for that. So I went to McClure High School, and then I was the contractor for 6 months. And they're very particular about security. And this is the past that I accumulated. So I work with the kids. I show them how to start the design and the expectation and the outcome. And it's like a game plan. And I work with about 26 students, but we're making tea set for 3,000 people. So the kids learn how to make things based on what I know, but they design their own. We design it together. The kids who came out with the design, what is the base going to look like? I just showed them the way and showed them how to use the tool. So this is my way of making slab, which is using a slab roller and an ongi pedal, which is on the far left, you can see. And it's so amazing to see the kids learn it so fast and figure out how to make an even slab without using a slab roller, which is such a success for me to see they're able to do so. And so we kind of create together, and I just go around and checking on stuff, and the students, they kind of figure out how to create all of this. And they learn about math, of course. They say if this size of a opening we can put this many cups, and each of them have to create a set for 250 people. So my goal was to make cups, and I make so many cups, and I also kind of estimated to have 7% more, just in case those breakage. So basically, I make the cups about 100 to 200 a day, and I see seas of cups, and each of those cups represents someone. Someone's going to use it, and we took it back to the school, and I worked with the English department. So we kind of break it down. A cylinder is actually rectangular in shape if it's flat. So having them thinking about what is that one thing that you want to write, and then they write what they want to write, and they write their name and their age, and then they sgraffito with toothpick instead of needle tool, because I cannot afford to buy 3,000 needle tools. So I figure out, let's find a very good toothpicks that the student can use. And so we have ceremonies, and I think we had several ceremonies, because we can't put all of them at one room. So this is among the ceremonies. And these are the sets. So 5 sets are in McClure Senior High School, and 2 sets in McClure South Berkeley. And we received a letter from President Obama at that time, and he said, "Dear students, thank you for writing." They were writing to the president, and he said, "I'm always eager to hear from young Americans like you. Your letters help me as I work to address the challenge we face as a nation. Your generation has an important role to play in solving our most difficult problems, and your commitment to making a difference gives me great hope for the future. I encourage you to stay engaged in the world around you and get involved with service projects that can bring meaningful change to the lives of others. The compassion and generosity you showed in your social action project, along with the skills you're gaining in school, will help your generation build a brighter tomorrow. Thank you again. Sincerely, Barack Obama." That was fantastic. The student was so excited to get a reply from the school. So the school, every year, they have stained glass. They commissioned a stained glass to commemorate the year. So that year, 2015, if you can see, it says community. And I remember when they called me to come over to see it, I cried. It was so meaningful to me. So I continued doing it with kids. I was invited to Forsyth High School. We did the same thing with the kids. And then we made, even the kids, it was a great idea, a way to talk about my culture, a way to talk about my idea and concept, and also a platform to spread good, to talk about something that is positive in the community. So basically the kids tells me what they want. So I hand build all this teapot with porcelain, and they painted it in a group. So there's a group of 8 kids, and each of them make their set based on what they want to represent as a group. Some of them have the night and day. Some of them have the sea world, sea creatures. Some of them have all the football teams. So they have a different ideas. And then we had a little practice because we had a tea ceremony coming up soon. So the kids are trying their cups and tea. And then some of them, it was their first time drinking tea. So we had a ceremony that night. It was celebrated, and then we cheers and we all drank. And they all worked. The teapot actually poured. So community and collaboration, and I received invitation from different artists. This is Andrea Therian exhibition. She asked me to come and serve tea and have a community while she talks about her work. And this is Bryce Robinson. And we had a community event during his show. And was at Brodesega Gallery. I did an artist talk. I had my show there, my work there, and at the same time we had a tea time. And I was doing something new as I was improvising with a group of jazz musicians, and I was making tea on the stage and reciting a poem about my love for Camellia sinensis. If you know, that's the scientific name for tea tree. And so I told the jazz musician, go with this tempo so I can recite my poem, and I did it, but I think I forgotten half of the words, but I just continue coming up with, like the jazz musician, I was improvising as well. And the best part is the audience did not know that I was making the tea for them. So I did this, this was in January or February. I did where I'm an Arkin, she's an Irish fiddler, and she played the music, and I make tetare. In this Anga Art Hotel, which is a hotel, is also a gallery. And it was, because I made this set where the cups are hidden in the vase, so they didn't realize I was making the tea for them as well. And the community idea went into even the school that I'm teaching right now at St. Louis Community College, which is what community is in the name of the college. And so I curated this show called Community Culture, where I asked the students in spring semester, I asked all the faculty to come up with this questions and asking the student, what is their tea culture? What is their thoughts on tea? So everyone, in drawing class, they have teapot in their still life, same as the painting students. And for photography, they go around and take pictures of, people drinking tea or kids playing with the tea set. And this is my collaboration with the faculty here at SDLCC, where I make the teapot and the faculty design on the teapot. This on the left is Mario Carlos, on the right is Zach Pito. And this is a photographer, also faculty here, Jamie Crayer. It's a decal of her photo, her photography on my teapot. On the left is Azab Bogosian. He is a painter. And on the right is Dan Wine, and he is a faculty of figure drawing. So it was fantastic that we get to collaborate. And this is the show. So I also want to talk a little bit about other stuff that I do. I guess whatever I do, and even though it's not ceramics, I tend to have the element of community. So I created a huge game board, like it's inspired by game board, and I'm making game pieces and a big die, and the game piece is about 14 feet, and the die itself is 5 feet by 5 feet by 5 feet. So this is my first attempt, and the game board is as big as 2.5 football field. And then I was invited again the next year because it was well played, by the visitors to this art festival. So I decided to making it airtight and put air in it. And then instead of doing 2 football size field, just like the small, this is the bird eye view of the game piece. And then in St. Louis, I was asked to make just the die so people can just roll the dies. So it was fun. Thank you. So I think that's the end of my presentation.
Well, Thank you, NORLEEN and NOSRI, for such a captivating presentation. So, inshallah, we'll proceed to Q&A session. So, before that, I would like to greet Dr. Aniza, Pak Taufik, Mr. Khairul Nizan. Thank you for supporting us. Okay, so we do have a question, right? All right, NORLEEN, we have a question from Khairi Bahrum. All right, so what is the distinctions in idea development and the process of artwork that you have created?
The distinction in idea development, I guess, in terms of, is it in terms of concept? Can you please elaborate more on that question? Yeah, I'm sorry.
Is it okay? Can we consider it?
So
can
the idea and process. I think
idea development.
They do hand in hand work together with my idea and process, because in terms of process, I know the material enough that I felt like if I have this idea in mind, it almost comes automatically, because I know how to make the work, and it's almost like a matter of just a deadline to get it done. And it's hand in hand in terms of I do let the work naturally happen, because sometimes you have an idea where you want it to be, you have a sense of what you want it to feel, and then the beauty is in that development of the idea. As you're making the work, you are present, and you are aware of these little things that could create or can get attention, or can because sometimes when we make work, if we are making stuff that an ideal, like we already know what we want, and we kind of like not in the present, we lose that opportunity to connect more with the viewer in terms of what we're making. So I hope that answered your question, that the idea development and the process of the artwork.
Yes, so the second question, Khairul Nizam, if I'm mistaken. All right, cool. So from the Khairul Nizam, or arrays between form and surface treatment, painting and deco, which is important for you, and how do you sort of reconcile between these two? Thank you.
I would say I always start with form first, because I've kind of figured out in terms of ceramics what kind of surface works with certain form. I always work with form first, and then it will like challenge the surface decision that I can make on top of that form. So I don't know whether one is more important than the other, but one thing I make sure that it would not be an afterthought. It has to be thoughtful. I think both are important. The balance of form and surface is super important in terms of composition, and in that manner, the balance. If it requires more time for me to figure out, then more time is needed. And so I won't rush through those process. But to me, both are important. But in terms of what I do first, I do form. I think about the form, and then sometimes I just let it go, and then the surface comes later. It's like putting on clothes. What clothes you're gonna wear? Should I wear this color? You break down the form, articulate the form. So both are important, actually.
So thank you, NORLEEN. I would say this a very engaging presentations.
Thank you.
I sangat betul lapar dengan nasi lemak.
Oh yeah. Yes.
So thanks again. Thank you very much. So it is with great pleasure that we bring our art programs to a close today. So I would like to extend my deepest gratitude to our esteemed speakers. Thank you very much. Your knowledge, insight, and personal experiences have provided us with a deeper understanding and appreciation of various art forms. I also like to express my huge thanks to everyone, including the committee members. As we conclude this program, let us carry the inspiration and newfound knowledge we have gained into our daily life. Let us continue to seek out art, support the artists, and engage with the cultural expression that move us and challenge our perspective. Once again, thank you all of joining us today. I'm RADZUAN Haji Muhammad RAFEE. Have a wonderful day. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you.